The kingdom of Alba Longa becomes an important link between the fall of Troy and the founding of Rome, stretching across generations. Nearly 400 years of mythic history. Ascanius became the first king, embodying the continuation of the divine family line, the gens Julia. After Ascanius, this line of kings, also known as the Sylvian Dynasty, rules Alba Longa, located in the Alban Hills, approximately 12 miles southeast of present-day Rome, situated on the high shores of Lake Albano. It is here that the lineage of kings transforms Aeneas' story from a single heroic journey into a lasting divine bloodline. The mysterious story of the Alba Longa line begins with a fracture in the chain of divine kings. The rightful king, Numitor, is thrown into exile by his jealous younger brother Amulius. To secure his power, Amulius forces Numitor's daughter, Rhea Silvia, to become a Vestal virgin, sworn to chastity, ensuring that she will have no heirs. Because Vestals were seen as hallowed symbols of the kingdom and of the goddess Vesta herself, it was illegal to even touch them or harm them in any way. They could only be punished in 2 cases: if they let the fire go out, a very bad omen for the kingdom, in which they could be whipped, or if they broke their vows of chastity, whereas they could be executed or even buried alive. Rhea Silvia later claims that she's been visited and impregnated by the god Mars himself. No one truly knows whether this is divine truth or a way to explain the unexplainable, but the result is the same. She soon gives birth to twin sons, Romulus and Remus. For Amulius, this is a serious threat. The newborn sons of Mars must be removed. They are placed in a basket and cast into the Tiber River, left to die. But the river does not carry them away. The shallow waters recede, and the basket comes to rest along the bank, beneath a sacred fig tree, known as the Ficus ruminalis. In Roman tradition, this sacred ficus stood near the place where the twins were believed to have been discovered, at the foot of the Palatine Hill, close to what would later become the Roman Forum. This moment, when the abandoned children are carried to safety by both nature and fate, was later imagined in works such as Landscape with the Finding of Romulus and Remus by Peter Paul Rubens, painted around 1615 to 1616. Rubens, one of the leading artists of the Baroque period, was known for his dynamic compositions, rich color, and ability to bring mythological scenes to life with movement and emotion. This painting is now held in the Musei Capitolini. In Rubens' composition, the landscape dominates the scene. The river winds through the background, the fig tree rises above the figures, and the basket carrying the infants rests at the edge of the natural world. The she-wolf approaches not as a threat, but as a guardian, while surrounding figures, including the shepherd Faustulus, begin to enter the scene. The focus is not only on the children, but on the environment itself. Nature becomes an active participant in their survival. The twins are discovered and nursed by a she-wolf. Soon after, they are found and raised by a shepherd, Faustulus, and his wife, Lupa. The word Lupa can mean both she-wolf and prostitute, and some say that Lupa could have possibly been the village harlot. But regardless of interpretation, the twins are raised in the wild and destined to reclaim their divine duty. This image, the she-wolf nursing the twins, became the defining symbol of Rome itself. It is most famously preserved as La Lupa Capitolina, or the Capitoline Wolf, now housed in the Musei Capitolini. The wolf itself likely dates back to the 5th century BCE, while the figures of the twins were added later, during the Renaissance. The animal stands rigid and alert, while the children reach upward in vulnerability. There is no narrative, only presence. Together, these images tell us something essential. Rome's origins are not purely divine, nor purely human. They are a fusion of both. The children of a god are not raised in palaces, but in the wilderness. The divine enters the world through exposure, danger, and survival. In Roman thought, this does not weaken their destiny, it confirms it. The gods do not remove struggle, they guide it. As they grow, Romulus and Remus discover their true lineage. They overthrow Amulius and restore their grandfather Numitor to the throne. But rather than remain in Alba Longa, they choose to found a new city. And it is here that their unity breaks. A dispute arises between the brothers over where the city should be built and who should rule it. The conflict escalates, and in its most tragic moment, Romulus kills Remus. The act is shocking, but it becomes foundational. Rome is born not in harmony, but in division. Its first act, a demonstration of power, boundary, authority, and fratricide. In Roman tradition, even this violence can be understood within a larger framework. Boundaries, physical, political, and sacred, must be respected. To cross them is to challenge order itself. In this sense, the death of Remus is not only a personal tragedy, but a statement about the cost of attempting to establish authority in a world believed to be governed by divine will. Romulus names the city after himself, Roma. According to Roman tradition, this moment takes place in 753 BCE, a date that marks not only the founding of a city, but the beginning of a story that Rome would come to believe was guided by the gods from the start. After its founding by Romulus, Rome faced an immediate and fundamental problem: survival. Rome was not yet a stable society. It was a gathering of outsiders, refugees, exiles, and men without status, all drawn together to form something new. But without women, there could be no families, no continuity, and no future. Romulus sought alliances with neighboring peoples, but Rome's reputation worked against it. No one would willingly give their daughters to a city of unknown origins. So Rome needed a plan, and it turned to deception. During a festival, the Romans invited the neighboring Sabines, and, at a signal, seized their women, an event later remembered as the rape of the Sabine women. This act was indeed violent, but in Roman tradition, it is framed as foundational. The women were not taken as spoils, but as wives, integrated into Roman households. Over time, they became mothers, forming the first generation of Roman families. But their abduction could not go unanswered. The Sabines, led by their king, Titus Tatius, marched on Rome, seeking justice and revenge. War broke out between the two peoples, and the conflict threatened to destroy the very society that Rome was trying to build. And then, at the height of battle, something extraordinary happens. The Sabine women themselves, now the wives of the Romans and mothers of their children, intervene. They rush between the armies, placing themselves in the space of violence, carrying their infants, some still pregnant, and plead with both sides to stop. They refuse to choose between father and husband, between the past and present. Instead, they demand unity. This miraculous moment, when the women step between the armies, has been immortalized in one of the most powerful paintings of the neoclassical period, The Intervention of the Sabine Women, created in 1799 by Jacques-Louis David, and now housed in the Musée du Louvre. Painted in oil on canvas on a monumental scale, the work reflects the ideals of neoclassicism: clarity, balance, and moral purpose, drawing inspirations from the ancient world that Rome itself believed defined its destiny. At the center of the composition stands a woman, often identified as Hersilia, wife of Romulus, her arms outstretched, suspended between two worlds. On either side, the armies stand poised, frozen in the final moment before violence. The men are upright, armored, ready to strike, but it is the women who carry the emotional weight of the scene. In the foreground, they collapse, cling to one another, and hold their children, embodying the cost of a war that has not yet begun, but has already been felt. David constructs the composition with striking balance. Two opposing forces held apart by a single act of intervention. This is not chaos, it is a moment of suspension, as if time itself has paused. And within that pause, something greater emerges. The women do more than stop a battle, they restore order. Their action reflects a deeply Roman idea that harmony, once broken, must be actively reestablished. They do not choose sides, they choose continuity. They choose the future. And in doing so, they embody pietas at its highest level. Not loyalty to one group, but responsibility to the whole. And it is here that the scene takes on a deeper meaning. In Roman thought, order was never purely human. It was aligned with the will of the gods. To preserve unity was to preserve that order. To prevent destruction was to act in accordance with something larger than oneself. In this sense, the women do not simply intervene, they act as instruments of balance, restoring what might otherwise have been lost. And their plea is heard. The war ends not with victory, but with union. The Romans and the Sabines merge into a single people, and Romulus and Titus Tatius rule together. creating a shared political and cultural identity. In this moment, Rome is not built through conquest, but through restraint. Not only through strength, but through alignment with each other, and with the order they believed was written into the world itself. Now, if the Sabine Women show how Rome was preserved through unity, the story of Lucretia reveals what happens when our divine pietas is broken at the highest level. While on a military campaign, a group of Roman nobles, including the king's son Sextus Tarquinius, begin arguing over whose wife is the most virtuous. To settle the dispute, they ride back into Rome unannounced, determined to see the truth for themselves. And what they find is revealing. Many of the noble women are feasting, drinking, and socializing, but Lucretia, the wife of Collatinus, is found at home, late into the night, quietly spinning wool among her servants. In this moment, she becomes the embodiment of Roman virtue, discipline, modesty, and devotion to the household. She is pietas made visible, a reflection of the order that Rome believed was aligned with the will of the gods. But that very perfection makes her a target. That night, Sextus Tarquinius returns. He enters her home as a guest, protected by the sacred laws of hospitality, and then betrays them. He threatens her with violence, and worse, with dishonor. This is not only a personal crime, it is a violation of trust, of household order, and of the moral structure that sustains Roman society. In Roman thought, this is more than social collapse. It is a disruption of divine balance. To violate Lucretia is not only to harm a woman, it is to violate the very principles that align Rome with the will of the gods. At dawn, Lucretia calls her husband, her father, and their allies. She recounts exactly what has happened and demands justice. And then, in a moment that will define Roman history, she explains her deep shame, simply cannot continue, and takes a dagger and plunges it deep into her breast. This moment has been preserved not only in history, but in art. One of the most powerful interpretations appears in Lucretia by Rembrandt, a 17th century Dutch master known for his dramatic use of light and shadow and his deep psychological realism. Painted in 1664 in oil on canvas and now housed in the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C., the work captures Lucretia not in dramatic motion, but in stillness. She stands emerging from darkness, her body softly illuminated, her head turned slightly away, her gaze lowered as if withdrawing inward in shame. This is not simply an image of death. It is an image of moral clarity. Her body becomes a symbol of violated order, and her action a deliberate act of restoration. In this sense, Rembrandt's painting reflects the Roman understanding of pietas. When moral and divine balance is broken, it must be restored, even at the cost of the self. Her sacrifice is not only an act of personal honor, it becomes, in Roman thought, a realignment with the divine. We can understand this moment even more clearly through the words of the Roman historian Livy, writing in the late 1st century BCE in his History of Rome. In Book 1, he records Lucretia's final words. How can a woman be honorable when her shame and modesty have been torn away? Though only my body has been violated, my soul is guiltless, and this I shall prove by my death. From now on, no unchaste woman shall live with Lucretia as her example." Livy tells us that she had concealed a dagger beneath her clothing, and as she finished speaking these words, plunged it into her heart and fell dying upon the wound. This is the turning point. As she collapses, Lucius Junius Brutus steps forward. He pulls the dagger from her breast and raises it before those gathered, swearing an oath that Rome will never again be ruled by kings. In that moment, private tragedy becomes political revolution. But it is also something more. It is a moment in which Rome redefines itself in response to a violation not only of law, but of divine order. The contrast with the Sabine women is stark. Where the Sabine women stepped between armies to preserve unity, Lucretia's death reveals a system that can no longer be saved. The danger is no longer external, it is internal. If the king's own son can act without restraint, then the monarchy itself is corrupt, not only politically, but morally, and in the eyes of the gods. The response is immediate and absolute. The Romans rise, expel Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, and dismantle the monarchy entirely. In its place, they establish a new system, the Republic. Power is no longer concentrated in one ruler, but shared between elected officials. The first to hold this office are Brutus himself and Lucius Tarquinius Collatinus, Lucretia's husband. From this point forward, Rome defines itself by a single principle: never again should one man hold unchecked power. But even this is more than political reform. It is a restoration of order. In this transformation, pietas evolves. It is no longer only a personal virtue, it becomes the foundation of political structure, a safeguard against the corruption that violated not only a woman, but the very moral and divine balance Rome believed sustained its existence. If the story of Lucretia explains why Rome rejected kings, the story of Lucius Quinctus Cincinnatus shows how the Republic was meant to work. In the early years of the Republic, Rome faced a familiar danger: invasion. Enemy forces threatened the city, and in response, the Senate made a rare and extraordinary decision. They appointed a dictator, granting one man absolute power, but only for a limited time, and only for a single purpose: to save Rome. But the man they chose was not a general surrounded by wealth and ambition. He was a simple farmer. Cincinnatus was found in his field, working the land with his own hands. When the delegation arrived, he did not seek power. He accepted it reluctantly, because it was required of him. This moment has been captured in works such as Cincinnatus Leaves the Plough, painted in 1806 by Juan Antonio Ribera, and now housed in the Museo del Prado in Spain. Painted in the neoclassical style, the work reflects a return of the ideals to ancient Rome: clarity, order, and moral purpose. In the composition, Cincinnatus stands in the fields, dressed simply, his body turned toward the messengers who have come to summon him. The plow remains beside him, a symbol of his ordinary life, one grounded in labor, not power. Around him, the figures gesture with urgency, representing the needs of the state. Yet Cincinnatus himself remains composed, almost reluctant, caught between two worlds. The contrast is deliberate. On one side, the tools of private life. On the other, the demands of public duty. He does not move toward power eagerly. He is called to it. And in that moment, the painting captures the essence of Roman virtue. Not ambition, but responsibility. The campaign was swift and decisive. Within a matter of days, he defeated Rome's enemies, restoring security and order to the state. And at that moment, he faced a choice. He could remain in power. No one could have stopped him. But instead, he did something that defined Roman identity for centuries. He gave it up. Cincinnatus laid down his power just as easily as he had taken it, returning to his farm, his plow still standing in the field, as if no time had passed. The office that could have made him a king became, in his hands, something else entirely. A temporary duty, fulfilled and then set aside. In this moment, pietas reaches its clearest expression. Cincinnatus does not rule for himself. He does not seek glory, wealth, or control. He acts only when called, and he does only what is necessary. Power in the Roman ideal is not something to possess. It is something to serve. And in Roman thought, this service was truly never purely human. To act with pietas was to act in alignment with a greater order, one shaped by the will of the gods. Authority, when used correctly, reflected that order. But when it was abused, it disrupted it. Cincinnatus restores balance not only to the state, but to the world as the Romans understood it. He takes power when it is required, and relinquishes it when its purpose is fulfilled. In doing so, he does not rise above the system, he honors it. In this way, pietas becomes more than duty. It becomes harmony between human action and divine design. If Lucius Quinctus Cincinnatus shows how power should be used, Julius Caesar shows what happens when that limit is crossed, and then rewritten.